What am I doing? I'm procrastinating, that's what I'm doing. Look at this big pile of flitches I have to deal with. I think flitches are like hangovers. If you saw my last video, we had a good time milling up these Ponderosa pine logs that were here, getting the good part out of the middle. Now, I have this big pile of flitches I have to deal with. I was just going to quickly knock these out this morning off camera, but someone asked the question in the comments this morning related to flitches. Related to these flitches. On my last video, my good neighbor to the north noticed I dropped down really low on one of my cap cuts. I'll show you a clip of that here. As I was about to type a reply, I decided maybe I'll just do a video about it. Also, maybe I'll do a video about how I deal with my flitches. They're a necessary evil, but they are necessary. I haven't done a video about those, and in the sawmill community, it's good to share information, how we do things. Getting back to that low cap cut in question, I'll show you the next clip of the next cut I made. Notice what you see in the background. What you may have noticed in the background is this piece. This is that cap cut in question. I wasn't quite done with it. And this is why I decided to do this video, to show you what I do with pieces like this. Let's put this back on the mill and we'll take a closer look at it. In that video, you didn't get to see the end of it because someone may have forgot to turn the camera over here on. It's a slight possibility of that. On this end, there's still a lot of good wood. But on this end, there's not a whole lot there. I could get a 1x4, but last thing I need is more 1x4s. This is a 10-foot piece. From about this point, it starts tapering off very fast. If I was to cut this down, first if I can get my tape to stick, if I can cut this at 8 feet, I'll probably be able to get a good 1x6 out of this, or maybe even a 1x8 with a little bit of wane in it. So let's cut this tapered end off and then proceed to the next step. There's a little gap under here because this one's a little bit bowed, so we're going to make a first cut a little bit high. Now we'll flip it over, cut the bow out of the back side. Now, instead of a 10-foot 1x4, or which in this case would have been a wasted cap cut, have a very nice 1x8 on one side and a 1x8 with a little bit of wane on the other side. I could also cut this into a 1x6 without any wane. Ideally, instead of doing it this way, I would have just started an inch higher on that cap cut when it was still on the log. But when I started that first cut, I didn't realize there was going to be so much wood on the butt end. This is mostly due to a toe board miscalculation on the previous side. But it gave me the opportunity to show you what I sometimes do with these cap cuts that taper fast toward the butt. Does this cap cut make my butt look tapered? I don't know the proper way to answer that question if she asks it. I also do something similar to this sometimes with my flitches. Maybe there'll be an example in this pile that I can show you. Oh no, that reminds me, we still have that pile of flitches to do. How do you tackle a big pile of flitches? It reminds me of the question, how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. How do you take care of those flitches? One flitch at a time. Unless they're of similar size, then you can do multiples at a time. I measure at the narrowest part inside the bark. This piece I can get a 1x6 out of. I measure up from the bottom to just below where it's going to hit the bark, which is 7 3/8. Set my blade at 7 3/8. On the first cut, a lot of times I do each board individually. That way I can custom cut them to get the most out of each one. I probably lose some time by doing that, but I gain more wood. And a lot of times I'll end up with more 1x6s that way instead of 1x4s. Or I'll end up with pieces without weighing instead of pieces with weighing. The top of this one's just wide enough for 1x6, but it has a crook on the far end. If we put a straight edge from this corner to this corner, if we make a 1x6 out of it, we're going to have a lot of wane right here. So we'll either have a 1x6 with some wane in it, or we'll have to turn it into a less desirable 1x4. Or I could cut this crooked end off of it and we could get a good clean 8-foot 1x6. Which by the time I go get the circular saw and get the battery in it, I can be through it with a handsaw. And they say exercise is good for us. On a bowed piece, I make sure the convex corners are at the same height. Put in a toe board if necessary. After I get a number of these edged on one side, flip them over, flat side down. We'll have a go at them from the other side. This reminds me of a German thing. I may slaughter this, but it goes something like, if you're feeling overwhelmed with something, just get started. Next thing you know, you're halfway done. Well, what do you know? I think we're over halfway done. Next thing you know, we'll be done. There, now they're all done. All of this is what we got out of those 4 logs that we milled up in the last video. Now the question is it worth taking the time to precisely measure all these flitches to squeeze every bit of wood we can out of them? Or is this just a habit I have from being influenced by a grandfather who is of Scottish descent, who grew up as a farm boy, heavily influenced by the Depression? Well, it's nice of you to ask that, but I don't have an answer for you. Maybe one day I'll figure out how much time it takes to do that and how much extra I actually get out of doing that. Yeah, right. It's a nice idea. Now it's starting to rain. This time it looks like it might even finish starting to rain. I'll put my cover on the mill and wrap it up for the day. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.